The champagne flute shattered against marble, crystal shards catching light like fallen stars across the ballroom floor. Aaliyah Robinson didn't flinch. She'd seen worse in her 28 years serving Seattle's elite. What made her breath catch wasn't the violence, but the man who caused it. Park Hyun-woo stood at the center of the chaos with the stillness of a storm's eye. His white dress shirt was open at the collar, revealing the edge of elegant Korean script tattooed vertically along his neck. Small, graceful characters that somehow made him more dangerous, not less. When his dark eyes locked onto hers across the crowded room, Aaliyah felt the floor tilt beneath her sensible work heels. She should have looked away, should have retreated to the kitchen with the other service staff. But something in his gaze held her frozen, a mixture of recognition and hunger that made no sense. They'd never met. She would have remembered. He moved toward her with predatory grace, and Aaliyah's survival instincts screamed at her to run. She didn't. That decision would change everything. Aaliyah Robinson had perfected the art of invisibility. After 6 years working Seattle's high-end catering circuit, she knew how to blend into expensive wallpaper, how to serve without being seen, how to exist in the margins of other people's opulent lives. Tonight's charity gala at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel was just another stage for the wealthy to perform their generosity, while servers like her kept the champagne flowing and the machinery of privilege running smoothly. Her reflection in the ballroom's gilded mirrors showed a woman who'd learned to armor herself in professionalism, deep bronze skin glowing against her crisp white server's uniform, natural hair pulled back in a sleek bun that had taken 20 minutes to perfect, dark eyes that revealed nothing of the exhaustion she carried like a second skeleton. At 28, Aaliyah had 3 part-time jobs and dreams she'd carefully folded away in a box marked "Someday." "Table 12 needs more wine." Octavia Chen's clipped voice crackled through Aaliyah's earpiece. Their manager rarely showed emotion, but tonight there was an edge of tension that made Aaliyah's shoulders tighten. "And whatever you do, don't make eye contact with the Korean delegation near the west windows. They're particular." Aaliyah navigated through the crowd with practiced efficiency. Her tray of champagne flutes balanced perfectly as she wove between designer gowns and tailored tuxedos. She'd learned to read rooms the way some people read books. The power dynamics, the hidden tensions, the unspoken hierarchies that govern spaces like these. The west side of the ballroom hummed with a different energy. The men gathered there wore their authority like expensive cologne, understated but impossible to ignore. They spoke in low voices, Korean and English mixing in a linguistic dance that suggested business, not pleasure. Security personnel lurked at the edges, their vigilance marking this group as something more than typical wealthy donors. That's when she saw him. Park Hyun-woo commanded attention without demanding it. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, the Seattle skyline glittering behind him like a kingdom he owned. 35, maybe 36, with features that could have been carved from marble. Sharp jaw, full lips, eyes that seemed to catalogue everything and reveal nothing. His black suit was immaculate, but he wore it with casual disregard, jacket unbuttoned, white shirt open at the collar revealing the intriguing tattoo on his neck. Korean characters, written vertically in a delicate script that seemed almost intimate against his skin. Aaliyah's feet carried her forward before her brain caught up. She wasn't supposed to approach this section. Octavia had been clear, but the man closest to the bar had flagged her down, and refusing wasn't an option. "Champagne," she offered, her voice professionally pleasant, gaze carefully neutral. The man, younger than Hyun-woo, with expensive cologne and a predatory smile, looked her up and down with the kind of assessment that made her skin crawl. "Tell me, beautiful, do you come with the champagne?" Aaliyah's smile never wavered, but her grip on the tray tightened. "Just the champagne tonight, sir." "That's disappointing." His hand reached out, fingers aiming for her wrist. The world seemed to slow. Aaliyah prepared to step back, to deflect with the practiced skill of someone who'd learned to navigate unwanted attention while keeping her job intact. But before the man's fingers could make contact, another hand intercepted. Strong, controlled, absolutely certain. Park Hyun-woo's voice cut through the ambient noise like a blade through silk. "Jin Seong." Just the name, spoken in Korean, but carrying enough weight to make the younger man freeze. "You're embarrassing yourself." Hyun-woo hadn't looked at Aaliyah yet. His dark eyes remained fixed on his associate with the kind of cold intensity that promised consequences. The man, Jin Seong apparently, immediately withdrew, muttering an apology in Korean that sounded sincere through its humiliation. Only then did Hyun-woo turn to Aaliyah. The impact of his full attention was physical. His eyes were the color of espresso, intelligent and assessing, framed by thick lashes that should have softened his features, but somehow didn't. When he looked at her, Aliyah had the unsettling sensation of being truly seen, not as invisible service staff, but as a person, a woman. It terrified her. "My apology for my associate's behavior," Hyun-woo said, his English flawless but carrying the musical cadence of his native Korean. He forgets himself in unfamiliar settings. "It's fine," Aliyah replied automatically, already calculating her exit strategy. "Can I get you anything, sir?" "Your name." The request wasn't what she expected. Aliyah hesitated, professional smile flickering. "That's not typically part of the service, sir." Something that might have been amusement touched the corner of his mouth. "I'm not a typical client." Before Aliyah could respond, chaos erupted. The sound came first, glass shattering, someone shouting in Russian. Then movement, fast and violent. A man in an ill-fitting tuxedo lunged toward Hyun-woo with something metallic glinting in his hand. Security moved, but they were too far away, too slow. Aliyah didn't think. Her body reacted on pure instinct, born from growing up in South Seattle, where awareness meant survival. She swung her metal serving tray with all her strength, connecting with the attacker's forearm with a sickening crack. The weapon, a knife, she realized with delayed horror, skittered across the marble floor. The ballroom exploded into motion. Security descended like a wave. Guests screamed and scattered, and Hyun-woo's hand wrapped around Aliyah's wrist with shocking gentleness, pulling her behind him in one smooth motion. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his body a wall between her and the chaos. More men in suits materialized. Hyun-woo's security, Aliyah realized, moving with military precision to contain the threat. The attacker was subdued within seconds, his face pressed against marble as zip ties secured his wrists. Hotel security arrived, radios crackling with urgent chatter. Through it all, Hyun-woo's hand remained on Aliyah's wrist, not restraining, but anchoring. His thumb pressed against her racing pulse, and she wondered if he could feel how fast her heart was beating. "You shouldn't have done that," he said quietly, still facing away from her, his body still positioned protectively. "Probably not," Aliyah agreed, her voice shakier than she wanted. The adrenaline was starting to fade, leaving her trembling. "But I didn't really think about it." He turned then, and the intensity in his eyes stole whatever breath she had left. "That makes it worse. You risked yourself. For a stranger. You're welcome?" It came out more sarcastic than Aliyah intended, shock making her words sharper. Hyun-woo's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile, but transformed his entire face. "Thank you," he said, and she heard genuine gratitude beneath the formal words. "Now, your name. You've earned the right to refuse, but I'm asking anyway." "Aliyah. Aliyah Robinson. Aliyah." He repeated her name like he was memorizing it, testing the syllables in his accent. "I am Park Hyun-woo. I gathered that from all the security." This time he did smile, and it was devastating, perceptive. Before Aliyah could respond, Octavia appeared at her elbow, face pale with anxiety. "Ms. Robinson, we need you in the back, now." Her eyes darted to Hyun-woo with barely concealed fear. "Sir, I apologize for any—" "Your employee prevented an attack," Hyun-woo interrupted smoothly. "She should be commended, not reprimanded." Octavia's expression suggested she disagreed but wouldn't dare say so. "Of course, sir. Aliyah, now please." As Aliyah allowed herself to be pulled away, she glanced back once. Hyun-woo stood exactly where she'd left him, surrounded by his security detail, but his eyes remained fixed on her with an intensity that made her stumble. Baek Jin-seong, the man who'd harassed her minutes earlier, leaned close to his boss and murmured something in Korean. Hyun-woo's response was too quiet for Aliyah to hear, but whatever he said made Jin-seong's eyes widen before he quickly bowed his head. In the service corridor, away from the glittering chaos, Aliyah leaned against the cool wall and tried to catch her breath. Her hands were still shaking. She'd just assaulted someone, granted someone attacking a guest, but still, she could be fired, arrested. Her carefully maintained stability could crumble in an instant. "What were you thinking?" Sarah's voice made Aliyah jump. Her best friend since high school materialized from the kitchen, still in her own server's uniform, face tight with concern. Serafina Dubois had been working the gala's other section and must have heard about the commotion. "I wasn't thinking," Aliyah admitted. "There was a knife and I just reacted." "For Park Hyun-woo." Sarah's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Aliyah, do you know who that man is? Rich? Clearly important?" He's the head of the largest Korean organized crime syndicate on the West Coast. Sarah grabbed Alia's shoulders. Girl, you just saved the life of one of the most dangerous men in Seattle. The words hit Alia like ice water. Mafia. She'd saved a crime boss. I didn't know, she whispered. Doesn't matter now. Sarah's eyes held a mixture of fear and something that looked like sympathy. Men like that don't forget debts. And they don't forget faces. As if summoned by her words, Octavia appeared again, her expression unreadable. Ms. Robinson, Mr. Park has requested to speak with you before he leaves. Tell him I'm not available, Alia said quickly. That's not a request you can decline. Alia's heart sank. She'd spent 6 years being invisible, careful, safe. One moment of instinct had shattered that carefully constructed shield. When she returned to the ballroom, most of the guests had been ushered out. Hyun-woo stood by the windows again, but this time he was alone, except for a tall, lean man with sharp features who watched Alia approach with unconcealed curiosity. Alia, Hyun-woo greeted her, and she hated how her name sounded different in his voice, more substantial, more real. This is Lim Tae-kyung, my head of security. Tae-kyung offered a slight bow. Ms. Robinson, your reflexes are impressive. I'm not sure that's a compliment given the circumstances, Alia replied carefully. Hyun-woo's eyes gleamed with something that might have been approval. I want to offer you compensation for your actions tonight. That's not necessary. A job. He cut through her protest cleanly. Working for me. The pay would be substantially better than what you're making here. Every alarm bell in Alia's head started ringing at once. Doing what, exactly? Whatever needs doing. I have various legitimate businesses that require staff. Nothing dangerous, he added, reading her expression. Despite what you may have heard about me, I don't put civilians at risk. Civilians, Alia repeated. That's an interesting word choice. An honest one. They stared at each other across the empty ballroom, and Alia felt the weight of a choice settling on her shoulders. The smart move was obvious. Thank him politely, refuse, and disappear back into safe invisibility. But when she opened her mouth, different words emerged. I need to think about it. Hyun-woo reached into his jacket and produced a business card, simple black with raised silver text. Take all the time you need. But Alia, he waited until she met his eyes. You saved my life tonight. Whether you want it or not, there's a connection between us now. I protect what's mine. I'm not yours, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. His smile was slow, dangerous, and absolutely certain. Not yet. Alia didn't sleep that night. She lay in her studio apartment in Columbia City, staring at the water-stained ceiling while her mind replayed every moment of the gala. The weight of Park Hyun-woo's business card on her nightstand felt heavier than any piece of paper had a right to be. Her phone buzzed at 6 a.m., Sarah's name lighting up the screen. Tell me you haven't called him, Sarah demanded without preamble. Good morning to you too, Alia muttered, pulling herself upright. Through her window, Seattle's gray dawn light filtered through persistent drizzle. And no, I haven't called anyone. Good, keep it that way. Alia, I asked around last night. Park Hyun-woo isn't just connected, he is the connection. His organization controls half the import business in the Pacific Northwest, the legitimate half and the... Sarah's voice dropped. The other half. Alia closed her eyes. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you're considering a job offer from a man who has people disappeared for looking at him wrong. That's dramatic. That's documented. Sarah's voice softened. I love you, and I know things have been tight since you had to take on your grandmother's medical bills, but there are other ways to make money. Safer ways. After they hung up, Alia went through her morning routine on autopilot. Shower, coffee, the careful application of makeup that transformed exhaustion into professionalism. She had a lunch shift at the bistro on Capitol Hill, an evening shift at the hotel bar, and if she was lucky, 4 hours of sleep before doing it all again tomorrow. This was her life. Safe, stable, slowly drowning. The business card seemed to pulse with possibility. She made it 3 days before curiosity, or desperation, she wasn't sure which, won out. The number connected to a smooth male voice that introduced itself as belonging to Baek Jin Seong. Ms. Robinson, he said, and she heard recognition in his tone. Mr. Park has been expecting your call. I haven't decided anything, Alia said quickly. I just want more information. Of course. Mr. Park would like to discuss the opportunity in person. Are you available for dinner tonight? I work tonight. Mr. Park is prepared to compensate you for any lost wages. A pause. He's offering you $50,000 annually to start, Ms. Robinson. More than triple your current combined income from all 3 jobs, with benefits. The number hit her like a physical blow. 50,000. No more juggling schedules. No more choosing between groceries and her grandmother's medications. No more panic attacks triggered by unexpected car repairs. Just for whatever needs doing. Suspicion crept into her voice. Mr. Park values loyalty and competence. You demonstrated both. Jin Seong's voice carried a note of respect that surprised her. He's offering you a legitimate position with legitimate work. What you make of it is your choice. Aaliyah found herself agreeing to dinner before she could overthink it. The restaurant was in Belltown, an elegant Korean establishment that probably cost more per meal than Aaliyah spent on food in a month. When she arrived, dressed in her best interview outfit, a navy dress that was professional without being fancy, Hyun-woo was already there, seated in a private room with translucent screens, providing the illusion of privacy while allowing glimpses of the main dining area. He stood when she entered, and Aaliyah was struck again by his physical presence. Tonight he wore black trousers and a charcoal grey shirt, the top 3 buttons undone, to reveal the tantalizing edge of that Korean script tattoo. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his fingers through it, and somehow that small imperfection made him more attractive, not less. Aaliyah, thank you for coming. He gestured to the seat across from him. I took the liberty of ordering several dishes. I hope you don't have dietary restrictions I should know about. I eat everything, she said, settling into the chair with more confidence than she felt. Mr. Park, Hyun-woo, he interrupted gently. We're past formalities, I think. Hyun-woo, she corrected, and watched his eyes darken at the sound of his name in her voice. I need to understand what this job actually entails. Your associate mentioned legitimate work, but I'm not naive. I know who you are, what you do. Do you? He leaned back, studying her with that unsettling intensity. What do I do, Aaliyah? You run an organization that operates outside the law. I run several organizations, most of which operate well within legal boundaries. He poured tea into delicate ceramic cups with surprising grace. Import-export, commercial real estate, investment management. The restaurant we're sitting in is mine. The hotel where we met is partially mine. I employ over 300 people in legitimate businesses across this city. And the illegitimate businesses? His smile was razor-sharp. Those exist too. I won't insult your intelligence by denying it, but the position I'm offering you has nothing to do with that side of my operations. I need someone to manage certain administrative functions for my legitimate holdings. Someone organized, discreet, and... His eyes held hers. Someone who can think quickly under pressure. Food began arriving. An array of dishes that made Aaliyah's mouth water despite her nervousness. Bulgogi, kimchi stew, delicate mandu, rice with an assortment of banchan that covered the table in small, colorful dishes. Why me? Aaliyah asked as she accepted a bowl. You must have dozens of qualified candidates. Hundreds, Hyun-woo agreed. But none of them threw themselves between me and a knife without hesitation. None of them looked at me afterward with wariness instead of fear or calculation. You're different, Aaliyah. You see people, not positions. That's a lot to assume from one interaction. I'm very good at reading people. It's how I've survived this long. They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence for several minutes. The food was incredible, complex flavors that spoke of tradition and care. Aaliyah found herself relaxing despite her better judgment. The tattoo, she said suddenly, nodding toward his neck. What does it say? Hyun-woo's hand moved unconsciously to touch the characters, a gesture that seemed vulnerable. It's from a poem by Yoon Dong-ju, I will love all things that die, a reminder of mortality, my own and others. The honesty in his voice surprised her. That's dark. I live in dark places. His eyes never left hers. But I'm drawn to light when I find it. The weight behind those words made Aaliyah's breath catch. This was dangerous, not because Hyun-woo seemed threatening, but because he didn't. Because sitting across from him felt natural in a way that should have been impossible. If I take this job, she said carefully, I need boundaries, clear ones. Of course, I won't be involved in anything illegal. Period. Agreed. And if I ever feel uncomfortable or unsafe, I walk away. No questions, no consequences. Something flickered in Hyun-woo's expression, approval mixed with something deeper. I would never prevent you from leaving, Aaliyah, but I will do everything in my power to make you want to stay. Before she could respond, the door to their private room slid open. Jin Seong entered with urgent steps, his face tight. He spoke rapidly in Korean, words Aliyah couldn't understand, but that made Hyunwoo's entire demeanor shift. He became someone else in an instant, colder, harder, dangerous. When he stood, his movements carried lethal grace. "I apologize, but I need to handle something immediately." His eyes found Aliyah's, and some of the warmth returned. "Jin Seong will arrange a car to take you home. Please think about my offer." "What's wrong?" Aliyah asked, though she knew it wasn't her business. Hyunwoo paused at the door. "Nothing you need to worry about. I keep my worlds separate, Aliyah. You would exist in the light." After he left, Jin Seong approached with careful politeness. "Ms. Robinson, if you'll follow me." "Is he in danger?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Jin Seong's expression revealed nothing. "Mr. Park is always in some degree of danger. It's the nature of his position, but he's very good at survival." He studied her with sharp intelligence. "You care? That's unexpected. I don't even know him. Sometimes that's when it matters most, before complications set in." He gestured toward the exit. "The car is waiting." As Aliyah rode through Seattle's night-lit streets in a town car far too expensive for someone like her, she made her decision. She would take the job. Not because of the money, though that mattered. Not because of Hyunwoo's intensity, though that affected her in ways she didn't want to examine. She would take it because for the first time in 6 years, someone had looked at her and seen possibility instead of service. Someone had made her feel visible, even if that someone was the most dangerous man in Seattle. Aliyah's first day working for Park Hyunwoo began in a glass tower in downtown Seattle, with views that made her dizzy. The building housed the administrative offices for his legitimate operations, a warren of conference rooms, modern workspaces, and the kind of technology that made her previous jobs look positively medieval. "Your office," Jin Seong announced, opening a door to reveal a space that was larger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Elliott Bay. A sleek desk dominated the center, and everything was decorated in calming neutrals that somehow felt expensive, without being ostentatious. "This is mine," Aliyah breathed. "Mr. Park believes in providing appropriate work environments." Jin Seong set down a stack of files. "These are the accounts you'll be managing: property records, vendor contracts, employee files for the restaurants and hotels. Everything is documented and legal. Your job is to keep it organized and flag anything that needs Mr. Park's direct attention." Over the next 3 weeks, Aliyah threw herself into the work with focused intensity. She discovered that Hyunwoo's legitimate empire was vast: 12 restaurants, 3 hotels, 2 commercial properties, and an import business that specialized in Korean goods. The organization behind it all was sophisticated but had gaps, inefficiencies she began methodically addressing. She also discovered that Hyunwoo himself was rarely present in the office. She saw him in passing, emerging from his corner office for meetings, his presence announced by the way everyone suddenly sat straighter and worked harder. He always acknowledged her with a nod, sometimes a few words, but never lingered. It should have been a relief. Instead, Aliyah found herself disappointed. "You're pining," Sarah announced one evening when they met for coffee at their usual spot in Columbia City. "For your crime boss employer." "I'm not pining," Aliyah protested, but her cheeks heated. "I barely see him." "Exactly. Which is why you check your phone every 5 minutes, hoping for a message." Aliyah couldn't deny it. Hyunwoo communicated primarily through Jin Seong or email, efficient, professional correspondence that revealed nothing personal. She told herself it was better this way, safer. The illusion of safety shattered on a rainy Thursday evening. Aliyah had stayed late reviewing quarterly reports, the office empty except for security personnel. When her desk phone rang, an internal line she rarely used, she almost didn't answer. "Ms. Robinson." Taekyung's voice carried unusual urgency. "I need you to come to Mr. Park's office immediately." Her heart lurched. "Is something wrong?" "Just come, quickly." Hyunwoo's corner office was dimly lit when she arrived, illuminated only by the city lights beyond the windows. He stood with his back to the door, jacket discarded, white shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Even from behind, she could see the tension in his shoulders. "Close the door," he said without turning, "and lock it." Aliyah's pulse jumped, but she obeyed. "Hyunwoo, what's going on?" When he turned, her breath caught. A cut above his eyebrow was bleeding sluggishly, his shirt was torn at the shoulder, and his knuckles were scraped raw. But his eyes burned with an intensity that made her take an involuntary step forward. "There's a situation," he said, voice tight. "Nikolai Volkov, the man who sent the attacker at the gala, is moving against me. He's in Seattle tonight with representatives from 3 other organizations. There's a meeting in 2 hours at the Cascadia Hotel, neutral ground, to discuss territorial boundaries. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Volkov saw you at the gala. He knows you saved my life and he's made inquiries. Hyun-woo moved closer, and Aliyah caught the scent of him, sandalwood and something darker, almost smoky. He's suggesting that your presence at my side tonight would demonstrate stability, that I have personal connections beyond business. Realization dawned cold and sharp. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend? For 10 seconds. His voice dropped, became almost pleading. Walk into that meeting with me. Stand at my side while I greet them. Let them see you're there willingly, that's all I'm asking. That's not all, Aliyah countered. You're asking me to paint a target on my back. If they think I matter to you, you do matter to me. The words came out fierce, unplanned. Hyun-woo stopped, visibly reining himself in. I wouldn't ask if there were another option, but Volkov is looking for weakness, and if he thinks I have no one, no connections beyond business, he'll push harder. Blood will be shed, probably mine. Aliyah stared at him, mind racing. This was exactly what she'd wanted to avoid, being drawn into his world, becoming visible in dangerous ways. But looking at him now, seeing the carefully controlled worry beneath his composure, she found her defenses crumbling. Just 10 seconds, she heard herself say. Then I walk away and we never speak of this again. Relief flooded his features with such intensity it transformed him. Thank you, Aliyah. He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. I will keep you safe. I swear it. You better. She tried for bravado, but her voice shook slightly. Otherwise, Sarah is going to kill you, and I'm pretty sure she knows how to hide a body. His laugh was surprised and genuine. I like your friend already. Taekyung appeared with clothing, an elegant black dress that fit Aliyah as if tailored for her, shoes that were somehow exactly her size. She didn't ask how they'd known her measurements. 20 minutes later, she stood beside Hyun-woo in front of a full-length mirror in an adjacent office. He'd changed into a fresh suit, black on black with a subtle pattern that caught the light. His hair was styled back, the cut above his eyebrow cleaned and barely visible. He looked powerful, dangerous, and devastatingly handsome. Next to him, Aliyah barely recognized herself. The dress hugged her curves while remaining elegant. Her natural hair was down in carefully styled curls that framed her face, and someone had provided makeup that enhanced rather than masked. She looked like she belonged at his side. That should have terrified her. Instead, it felt strangely right. Ready? Hyun-woo asked, offering his arm. No, Aliyah admitted, but she took it anyway. But let's go before I change my mind. The ride to the Cascadia Hotel took 15 minutes through rain-slicked streets. Hyun-woo's hand covered hers, where it rested in the crook of his elbow, his thumb tracing absent patterns on her skin that she suspected he wasn't aware of. After tonight, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the passing city, I want to take you to dinner. A real one. No business, no emergencies, just us. That's probably not a good idea. I know. He finally looked at her, and the raw want in his eyes made her breath catch. But I'm asking anyway. Before Aliyah could respond, the car stopped. They'd arrived. The Cascadia's private event room was beautiful and threatening in equal measure, elegant furnishings arranged around a central table where 5 men already sat. Aliyah recognized Nikolai Volkov immediately from news coverage, tall, blonde, with the kind of pale blue eyes that seemed to calculate the value of everything they saw. The room fell silent when they entered. Hyun-woo's hand moved to the small of Aliyah's back, possessive and protective. Gentlemen, thank you for agreeing to meet. Park. Volkov's voice carried a thick Russian accent. And guessed. How unexpected. They moved deeper into the room, and Aliyah felt every eye tracking their movement. Hyun-woo introduced her simply as Aliyah, offering no explanation, no justification. His hand never left her back. 10 seconds. She just needed to last 10 seconds. The woman from the gala, Volkov said, recognition lighting his features. The one who interfered. Tell me, dear, does Park pay you to take knives for him, or is that part of your regular duties? The insult was designed to provoke. Aliyah felt Hyun-woo tense beside her, prepared to respond. She spoke first. I don't get paid to save lives, Mr. Volkov. I do it because, unlike some people in this room, I was raised to believe human life has value. Silence. Then Volkov laughed, a sharp, genuine sound. She has teeth. I approve, Park. Perhaps you're not as soft as I thought. Never mistake restraint for softness, Hyunwoo replied, his voice silk over steel, and never mistake my patience for weakness. The 10 seconds had passed, but Aliyah found she didn't want to leave. Not because she was brave, but because leaving Hyunwoo alone in this room full of predators felt wrong in ways she couldn't articulate. She stayed. The meeting lasted another 30 minutes. Tense negotiations about territory, shipping routes, areas of mutual interest. Aliyah said nothing more, but her presence shifted something fundamental. These men saw Hyunwoo differently with her at his side, saw him as human, as having something to lose. When they finally left, Hyunwoo's control lasted exactly as long as it took to reach the car. Then his hands framed her face, his eyes searching hers with desperate intensity. "So you stayed," he breathed. "I told you 10 seconds, but you stayed. I couldn't leave you alone with them," Aliyah admitted. It felt wrong. Aliyah. Her name was a prayer, a curse, a question. "You terrify me. Do you understand? I've built my entire life on control, on never giving anyone leverage, but you've become leverage I chose. Weakness I want. Hyunwoo, have dinner with me. Please." She should say no. Should maintain boundaries, protect herself, remember that he was dangerous and her life was finally stable. Instead, she nodded. His smile was incandescent. "Tomorrow night, I'll cook for you." "You cook?" "I'm Korean," he said with mock offense. "Of course I cook." The absurdity of it. This powerful, dangerous man offering to cook dinner like a normal date made Aliyah laugh. And once she started, she couldn't stop. Tension and fear and something that might have been joy pouring out in waves of helpless laughter. Hyunwoo watched her with an expression of such tender wonder that it stole what was left of her breath. "You're beautiful when you laugh," he said quietly. "I want to make you laugh every day." That's when Aliyah knew she was in serious trouble, because when he said things like that, she wanted to let him. Hyunwoo's home was not what Aliyah expected. Instead of a sterile penthouse or mansion dripping with ostentation, he lived in a renovated craftsman house in the Seward Park neighborhood. Warm wood, careful renovations that honored the original architecture, and a kitchen that looked actually used. "My grandmother's house," he explained, as he prepared ingredients with practiced efficiency. "She raised me here after my parents died. I couldn't sell it." Aliyah perched on a stool at the kitchen island, watching his hands move with the same precision he brought to everything. "How old were you?" 12. Car accident on the highway to Vancouver. His voice was matter-of-fact, but his hands stilled briefly. "My father was supposed to be the next head of the organization. Instead, that responsibility eventually fell to me. You didn't want it. No one sane wants this life." He looked up, eyes meeting hers. "But sometimes we inherit responsibilities we didn't choose. We make the best of them." Over the next hour, Aliyah learned more about Park Hyunwoo than she'd discovered in 3 weeks of working for him. He told her about his grandmother's cooking lessons, about studying business at the University of Washington, while secretly training to take over an empire he didn't want, about the weight of tradition and expectation. "Everyone thinks being in my position means power and freedom," he said, as they ate the incredible bulgogi and side dishes he'd prepared. "They don't see the cage, the constant vigilance, the knowledge that showing weakness, showing humanity, can be fatal." "But you're showing me," Aliyah pointed out. "Right now. Isn't that dangerous?" "Terrifying," he agreed. "But I'm tired, Aliyah. Tired of being alone in a crowd. Tired of relationships that are only transactions. When I look at you, I see someone who might understand. Who might—" He stopped, shook his head. "I'm asking too much. Maybe I want to give it anyway." The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Hyunwoo set down his chopsticks slowly. "If we do this," he said carefully, "if we become something more than employer and employee, you need to understand what that means. There will be danger. People will target you to hurt me. Your life will become complicated in ways you can't imagine." "My life is already complicated," Aliyah countered. "Different complications, but no less real. At least with you, I'd be choosing them." "Aliyah." A sharp knock interrupted them. Tae-kyung entered without waiting for acknowledgement, his face grim. "We have a situation." The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Hyunwoo stood, instantly transformed back into the man who commanded an empire. "What kind of situation?" "Father Ezekiel Baptiste from the Columbia City Community Church was just hospitalized. Someone broke into the church and assaulted him. He's asking for you." Aliyah's blood turned to ice. "Father Baptiste? He's my priest. Why would anyone... Understanding dawned in Hyun Woo's eyes, followed immediately by cold fury. They're sending me a message. Through you. He turned to Tae-kyung. Hospital, now, and I want every person we have looking into this. The ride to Harborview Medical Center was tense and silent. Hyun Woo's hand found Alia's and held it with crushing intensity, but his face was a mask of controlled rage that made her stomach clench with fear, not of him, but for what he might do. Father Baptiste was in stable condition, his face bruised, arm in a sling, but conscious and surprisingly calm. When Alia rushed to his bedside, he caught her hand with his good arm. Child, I'm fine. Bruised pride more than anything. Who did this? Alia demanded, tears streaming down her face. Why? 2 men, they asked about you, about your relationship with Park Hyun Woo. Father Baptiste's eyes found Hyun Woo, who stood at the foot of the bed like a dark angel. They wanted me to deliver a message. Tell her that her hero can't protect everyone. Hyun Woo's voice, when he spoke, was devoid of all warmth. Volkov. Most likely, Tae-kyung confirmed from the doorway. He's testing your resolve, seeing how far he can push before you react. Then he's about to learn. Hyun Woo moved to the bed, bowing slightly to Father Baptiste with genuine respect. Father, I take full responsibility for this. You were targeted because of your connection to Alia, and her connection to me. I will ensure it never happens again. And how will you ensure that, son? Father Baptiste asked gently. With more violence? If necessary. Hyun Woo, Alia started. No. He cut her off, voice sharp. This is what I was trying to explain. This is the danger. They hurt an innocent old man to send me a message through you. What do you think they'll do next? The implications hung heavy in the air. Alia felt her world tilting, reality crashing in. This wasn't a romance novel. This was real danger, real consequences, real blood. Maybe I should quit, she whispered. If they think we're not connected, it's too late for that. Hyun Woo's eyes held a mixture of rage and something that looked like grief. They've already identified you as leverage. Leaving my employment won't erase that. In fact, it would make you more vulnerable because you wouldn't have my protection. So what do? I end this. He turned to Tae-kyung. Gather everyone. I want a full accounting of Volkov's operations in Seattle, every business, every property, every connection. We are going to dismantle his network piece by piece until he understands that touching what's mine has consequences. Hyun Woo, Father Baptiste's voice held a warning. Violence begets violence. Not violence, Father. Strategy. Hyun Woo's smile was cold. I won't touch Volkov directly, but his money, his influence, his reputation, those are all fair game. By the time I'm done, he'll be radioactive in this city. No one will work with him. No one will shelter him. He'll have to return to Russia or find a new territory because Seattle will belong to me. The ruthless certainty in his voice sent chills down Alia's spine. This was the man people feared, the man who'd built an empire through intelligence and merciless strategy. But when he looked at her, that coldness melted into something vulnerable. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Alia thought about the past few weeks, about how he'd treated her with respect from the first moment, about the careful boundaries he'd maintained, about how even now, furious and dangerous, he was asking her permission rather than demanding compliance. I trust you, she said. But Hyun Woo, don't lose yourself in this. Don't become the monster they expect you to be. His eyes closed briefly, and when they opened, she saw gratitude mixed with pain. That's why I need you. You remind me who I want to be, not just who I have to be. Over the next 2 weeks, Alia watched Hyun Woo wage a war that never involved a single weapon. Instead, he used information, influence, and impeccable timing. Volkov's shipments were mysteriously delayed by customs. His business permits were challenged by newly motivated inspectors. His allies in city government found themselves under investigation for unrelated matters. One by one, the pieces of Volkov's empire began crumbling. Through it all, Hyun Woo kept Alia close, but never exposed. She had security detail now. Tae-kyung or other trusted personnel always within earshot, but never intrusive. Her apartment buildings suddenly had better locks and camera systems. Father Baptiste's church received an anonymous donation that paid for enhanced security. You're protecting everyone I care about, Alia said one evening as they shared dinner in his office, a habit they'd developed, finding stolen moments amid chaos. Of course. Hyun Woo looked surprised she'd even question it. They matter to you. Therefore they matter to me. That's not how most people think. I'm not most people. He set down his chopsticks, expression serious. Aaliyah, I need to tell you something. The night we met, the man with the knife, he wasn't aiming for me. Her blood went cold. What? Tae-kyung reviewed the security footage. The angle was wrong for a direct attack. He was aiming for Jin Seong, who was standing next to me. You saved Jin Seong's life, not mine. Hyunwoo's eyes held hers. But I let you believe otherwise because it gave me an excuse to keep you close. Anger flared hot in Aaliyah's chest. You lied to me. I did, and I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry for the result. He stood, moving around the desk to kneel before her chair. From the moment I saw you, something in me recognized something in you. I don't believe in fate or destiny, but I believe in choices. I chose to want you in my life. I chose to do whatever it took to make that happen, even if it meant bending the truth. That's wrong, manipulative, exactly what you'd expect from someone like me. His voice turned harsh. I know what I am, Aaliyah. I know the darkness I carry, but you're light. You're the first real thing I've encountered in years, and I was selfish enough to want that light for myself. Aaliyah stared at him, emotions warring inside her. She should be furious, should feel violated by the manipulation. But looking at him now, seeing the raw vulnerability in his eyes, she found she couldn't summon the rage she probably deserved to feel. You're an idiot, she said finally. He blinked, clearly not expecting that response. What? You're an idiot who thinks he has to manipulate people into caring about him. Hyunwoo, I would have stayed anyway. Not because of some life debt, but because when I look at you, I see someone trying to be good despite impossible circumstances. I see someone who cooks dinner for his employee and protects old priests and carries the weight of an empire he never wanted. She reached out, touching the tattoo on his neck gently. I will love all things that die. You chose that because you want to be capable of love despite the death that surrounds you. His hand covered hers, pressing it against his throat where she could feel his pulse racing. You see too much. Not enough, apparently, because I didn't see that you were falling for me the same way I was falling for you. The words hung between them, confession and challenge in equal measure. Hyunwoo's eyes widened, hope and disbelief warring across his features. Say that again, he demanded hoarsely. I'm falling for you, Park Hyunwoo, despite every logical reason not to. Despite the danger and the complications and the fact that you're probably going to break my heart. Aaliyah smiled through sudden tears. I'm falling, and I can't stop. And honestly, I don't want to. He surged upward, and suddenly she was in his arms, lifted from the chair as he held her with desperate intensity. His face buried in her neck, and she felt him shaking. I don't deserve you, he whispered against her skin, but I'm keeping you anyway. I'm keeping you, and I'm going to spend every day trying to be worthy of that gift. When he finally pulled back to look at her, his eyes were suspiciously bright. Aaliyah Robinson, I am completely, hopelessly in love with you. I have been since you hit a trained killer with a serving tray and looked at me like I was just another person instead of a monster. You terrify me and heal me in equal measure, and I will spend the rest of my life protecting that light you carry. That's very romantic for a crime boss. Aaliyah managed, her own tears spilling over. I contain multitudes, he said with a watery smile. Then, more seriously, this won't be easy. There will be more Volkovs, more threats, more complications. Are you sure? She kissed him. It started as a way to silence his doubts, but transformed into something deeper. A promise, a claim, a beginning. His hands framed her face with infinite gentleness, and when they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. I'm sure, Aaliyah said firmly. Now stop asking, and accept that you're stuck with me. Stuck, he repeated, smile growing. That's one way to put it. What's your way? Blessed, lucky, home. Each word was punctuated with a soft kiss. You're my home, Aaliyah, the place I didn't know I was looking for. Later that night, as they sat intertwined on his office couch, Tae-kyung knocked with the kind of timing that suggested he'd been waiting for an appropriate moment. Volkov has left Seattle, he announced. His organization has pulled out completely. You've won. Hyunwoo's arm tightened around Aaliyah. At what cost? Minimal? No casualties, limited property damage, mostly financial and reputational losses for Volkov. Tae-kyung's expression held approval. It was clean, boss. The kind of victory that sends a message without starting a war. After he left, Aaliyah snuggled closer to Hyunwoo's warmth. So it's over. This particular threat, yes. His hand traced patterns on her shoulder absently. But Aaliyah, my life, our life if we do this, will always have elements of danger. I can minimize it, manage it, but I can't eliminate it completely. You need to understand that. I understand that nowhere is completely safe, Aliyah replied. I understand that life carries risk, whether you're dating a crime boss or an accountant. The question isn't whether there's danger, it's whether the love is worth navigating that danger together. And is it? She turned to look up at him, taking in the strong lines of his face, the vulnerable hope in his eyes, the careful tenderness with which he held her. Yeah, it is. His kiss this time was different, less desperate, more certain, a claiming that was also a surrender. Then we'll figure it out, he murmured against her lips. Together. 3 months later, Aliyah stood in her new apartment in Capitol Hill, a space Hyun-woo had insisted on upgrading her to, though she paid rent despite his protests, and marveled at how completely her life had transformed. Stop overthinking, Sarah called from the kitchen where she was unpacking boxes. I can hear your brain spiraling from here. I'm not overthinking, Aliyah protested. You're absolutely overthinking. Probably wondering if you made the right choice, if this is sustainable, if you're fooling yourself. Sarah appeared in the doorway, hands on hips. Girl, I've watched you bloom over the past 3 months. You're happier than I've ever seen you. Yes, he's complicated. Yes, the situation is unconventional. But that man looks at you like you hung the moon, and you look at him the same way. Stop questioning it, and just be happy. Before Aliyah could respond, her phone chimed with a text from Hyun-woo. Dinner tonight, I have something to show you. Her heart did that stupid flutter it always did when he contacted her. 3 months in, and the effect hadn't diminished at all. What kind of something? She typed back. The kind that requires trust and an open mind. 7 p.m. I'll pick you up. That evening, instead of heading to a restaurant or his house, they drove to a commercial building near Pike Place Market. Hyun-woo led her inside with barely contained excitement, a boyish enthusiasm that softened his usually composed features. Close your eyes, he instructed as they approached a door on the 2nd floor. You're joking. Please, it's important. Aliyah complied, let him guide her forward. She heard a door open, caught the scent of fresh paint and something that might have been sage. Okay, open. The space before her was a beautiful, light-filled restaurant in the final stages of renovation. Exposed brick walls, modern fixtures, an open kitchen design that emphasized transparency, and artwork that celebrated both Korean and African diasporic cultures in stunning harmony. I don't understand, Aliyah breathed. It's yours. Ours, technically, but primarily yours. Hyun-woo moved to stand beside her, his hand finding hers naturally. You mentioned once that you'd always dreamed of opening a restaurant that served fusion cuisine, bringing together different cultural traditions. I thought, why dream when you can build? Hyun-woo, I can't, this is too much. It's an investment, he interrupted gently. I provide the capital and business infrastructure. You provide the vision and management. 50-50 partnership. Completely legitimate, completely yours to shape however you want. His eyes held hers. You're brilliant at organization, Aliyah. I've watched you transform my administrative operations. But I've also seen how you light up when you talk about food, about bringing people together through shared meals. This is me investing in your dreams, not trying to buy you. Aliyah walked through the space in a daze, touching surfaces, imagining possibilities. A restaurant. Her restaurant. A place where she could create, build, make something beautiful that served both her Korean partner's heritage and her own. What would we call it? She asked, voice thick with emotion. I was thinking confluence, Hyun-woo suggested, where streams meet, where cultures blend, where two people from different worlds build something new together. She turned to him, tears streaming freely now. You're really good at grand romantic gestures. I'm Korean and raised by a grandmother who believed in showing love through action. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. I love you, Aliyah Robinson. This is just one of many ways I plan to show it. I love you too, she whispered. Even when you're overwhelming and dramatic and... He kissed her breathless, and for several minutes, conversation became unnecessary. When they finally broke apart, Hyun-woo's expression turned more serious. There's something else. My grandmother's house. The one I've been living in. I want you to move in with me. Aliyah's eyes widened. That's a big step. I know. And if you're not ready, I'll wait. I'll wait years if that's what you need. His thumb traced her cheekbone tenderly. But I wake up every morning wishing you were there. I come home every evening wishing I could find you in my kitchen, stealing ingredients. I want our lives intertwined, not just connected. I want to fall asleep with you and wake up to you and build a life that's ours. What about the danger, the complications? Still there. Always will be to some degree. Hyunwoo's honesty was one of the things she loved most about him. But I've been restructuring my operations, delegating more of the problematic aspects, focusing on legitimate growth. It's a slow process, but I'm trying to build a life where the man you love and the man I have to be can eventually become the same person. You're already that person, Alia said softly. You've always been that person. You just needed someone to see it. His smile was radiant. Is that a yes to moving in? That's a yes to everything. The restaurant, the house, this crazy life we're building. She took his face in her hands. Park Hyunwoo, you walked into my life when I was invisible and made me seen. You gave me dreams I'd stopped letting myself imagine. You protected the people I love and showed me what it means to be loved completely. So yes to all of it. The kiss that followed was celebration and promise in equal measure. 6 months after that, Confluence opened to rave reviews. The fusion menu, Korean soul food blending that honored both traditions while creating something entirely new, became an instant sensation. Alia found herself profiled in local magazines, featured on food blogs, building a reputation as an innovative restaurateur. Through it all, Hyunwoo was her partner in every sense. He'd pop into the kitchen during service, stealing kisses when she wasn't looking and charming customers with stories about how they met. His legitimate business empire continued growing, while the darker elements gradually diminished as he carefully extracted himself from operations that couldn't coexist with the life they were building. You're staring, Alia said one evening as they sat in their grandmother's kitchen, their kitchen now, sharing a late dinner after Confluence's evening service. I'm appreciating, Hyunwoo corrected. There's a difference. Appreciating what? This. You. Us. He reached across the table to lace his fingers through hers. A year ago, I was alone in this house, going through the motions of existence without really living. Now I have you, and a future that looks like something I actually want, instead of something I'm obligated to endure. That's because you're a secret romantic hidden under layers of crime boss intimidation, Alia teased. Only with you. Everyone else still gets the intimidation. His smile turned wicked. Speaking of which, Jin Seong told me that Volkov tried to make moves back into Seattle last month. And the coalition of organizations I've built made it very clear that wouldn't be wise. He's persona non grata here now. Turns out, demonstrating that I could dismantle his empire without violence made everyone realize I'm a more valuable ally than enemy. So you've essentially won by being strategic instead of brutal. I had good motivation. His eyes held hers with that intensity that still made her breath catch. You once told me not to become the monster people expected. I've tried very hard to live up to that. Later that night, as they lay tangled together in the bed they now shared, Alia traced the Korean characters on his neck with gentle fingers. I will love all things that die, she quoted. Have you thought about adding to it? What would you suggest? But I will live for what makes me feel alive. She met his eyes. You make me feel alive, Hyunwoo. Every single day. His hand came up to cup her cheek, and she saw her own emotions reflected in his eyes. Love, gratitude, wonder. You saved my life that night at the gala. Not from a knife, but from a half-existence I didn't even realize was killing me slowly. He kissed her softly. Alia Robinson, will you marry me? The question came without preamble, without a ring, just raw vulnerability and hope. You don't have a ring, she pointed out, even as joy exploded in her chest. I have something better. He rolled over, retrieving a small box from his nightstand. Inside was a delicate necklace, a pendant that combined the Korean character for love with the Adinkra symbol Sankofa, representing the importance of learning from the past. Our cultures, our histories, combined in something new, like us. Tears blurred Alia's vision. You made this? I had it commissioned. The jeweler is a friend who understands the importance of honoring both where we come from and where we're going. Hyunwoo's voice grew thick with emotion. So I'm asking again, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, building this beautiful, complicated life with you? Yes, Alia whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. As he fastened the necklace around her throat and kissed her with reverent intensity, Alia reflected on the strange journey that had brought them here. She'd walked into a gala as invisible service staff and walked out having saved a life, though not the one she'd thought. She'd saved her own. Because meeting Park Hyunwoo had forced her to step out of the shadows she'd been hiding in, to demand more from life than mere survival, to believe she deserved the kind of love that transforms and elevates. "What are you thinking?" Hyunwoo murmured against her hair. "That I'm grateful for every choice that led me to you, even the terrifying ones." "Especially the terrifying ones," he agreed. "Those are the choices that matter most." Outside their window, Seattle sparkled with endless possibilities. Inside their home, two people from different worlds held each other close and dreamed of the future they would build together. A future that honored their pasts while creating something entirely new. A confluence of souls that defied expectation and proved that love, when brave enough, could bridge any divide. 2 years later, Aaliyah stood in the kitchen of Confluence, directing her staff through the evening service with the confidence of someone who'd found her calling. The restaurant had expanded, earning a James Beard nomination and becoming a Seattle landmark, where Korean and soul food traditions blended into something transcendent. "Table 8 is asking for you," one of the servers announced. "They want to meet the chef." Aaliyah wiped her hands, removed her apron, and stepped into the dining room. She never tired of this part, seeing people's faces light up as they experienced food that spoke to something deeper than mere sustenance. But tonight, the face at table 8 made her stop in her tracks. Park Hyun-woo sat with Father Ezekiel Baptiste, Jin Seong, Tai Kyung, Sarah, and Octavia Chen, all the people who'd become family over the past 2 years. And at the head of the table, in the place of honor, was an elderly Korean woman with kind eyes and an elegant presence. "Grandmother," Aaliyah breathed. Hyun-woo's grandmother, who'd passed away 10 years ago, or so she'd been told. Except clearly, she hadn't. "I lied," Hyun-woo admitted, standing to pull out a chair for Aaliyah beside his grandmother. "My grandmother didn't die. She retired to a monastery in South Korea, where she could finally have peace after decades of dealing with our family's complications." His eyes held mingled guilt and love. "I told you she'd passed because explaining the truth seemed too complicated. I'm sorry. You've been lying to me for 2 years, Aaliyah demanded, though her anger was already fading as Hyun-woo's grandmother reached out to take her hand. "He's been protecting me," the older woman said in lightly accented English, her voice warm and knowing, "and perhaps protecting you from the weight of expectation. But I told him I wouldn't die without meeting the woman who'd given my grandson back his humanity." Her eyes sparkled with mischief. "Though I see now why he was so reluctant. You're far too good for him." The table erupted in laughter, and Aaliyah felt the last of her irritation dissolve. This gathering of people who'd become her chosen family, this celebration of love and food and second chances, this was what mattered. "I'm still mad at you," she told Hyun-woo as his grandmother peppered her with questions about the menu. "I know," he murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." "You better." But she was smiling. Later, after service ended and their guests had departed, Aaliyah and Hyun-woo sat on the rooftop of Confluence, overlooking Elliott Bay under stars struggling to shine through Seattle's perpetual clouds. "Your grandmother approved," Aaliyah said, leaning against his shoulder. "She loved you. I knew she would." Hyun-woo's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. "She asked when we're giving her great-grandchildren. We've been married for 8 months. Tell her to be patient. I told her to ask you directly next time." He grinned at her expression. "She's very persistent. It's genetic." Aaliyah looked out at the city that had become truly home, not because of its location, but because of the life she'd built here. From invisible server to celebrated chef, from isolated and struggling to surrounded by family, from resigned to survival to actively building a future that exceeded her wildest dreams. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing me when I was invisible, for choosing me when you could have had anyone, for building this life with me." She turned to face him fully. "For pretending I was yours for 10 seconds, even though it turned out I was always supposed to be." Hyun-woo's eyes grew suspiciously bright. "You're going to make me cry in public. We're alone on a rooftop. Still counts as public." But he kissed her anyway, deep and thorough, and full of promises, yet to be fulfilled. "I love you, Aaliyah Park. Thank you for taking a chance on the dangerous guy." "You're only dangerous when someone threatens your family," Aaliyah corrected. "Otherwise, you're just a softie who cooks dinner and cries at children's movies." That was one time, and the dog deserved a happy ending. Their laughter carried across the rooftop, mixing with the sounds of the city below, traffic and conversation and life unfolding in endless variation. 2 years ago, Aaliyah had stood in a ballroom and made a split-second decision that changed everything. She'd acted on instinct, on the fundamental belief that human life had value and deserved protection. She'd been right. But what she hadn't known then was that she'd been saving herself as much as anyone else, that her split-second courage would lead to a love that transformed not just her circumstances, but her entire understanding of what was possible. "What are you thinking?" Hyunwoo asked, reading her contemplative expression. "That I'd do it all again. Every scary moment, every complication, every time I questioned if I was making a terrible mistake." She met his eyes, "Because all of it led here. To you, to us, to this life we built together. Even when I told you to pretend you were mine, especially then." Aaliyah smiled. "Because pretending gave us permission to imagine what being together might look like. And once we imagined it, we couldn't unsee it." "I couldn't unsee you," Hyunwoo corrected. "From the first moment, you were this flash of light in my carefully controlled darkness, and I knew I'd spend the rest of my life trying to earn the right to exist in your orbit. You earned it the moment you chose to be better, instead of just being powerful." She kissed him softly. "Now stop being romantic and take me home. Your grandmother invited herself for breakfast tomorrow, and I need to practice my Korean before she quizzes me again." His laughter was pure joy. "She's going to keep you on your toes. I'm counting on it." As they left the restaurant, hand in hand, Aaliyah glanced back at Confluence one more time. The name had proven prophetic, a place where streams met, where different traditions created something new, where two people from different worlds had built a bridge strong enough to carry them both. Life with Park Hyun-woo would never be simple. There would always be complications, always be moments where his past intersected with their present in uncomfortable ways. But simple had never been Aaliyah's goal. She wanted real. She wanted transformative. She wanted the kind of love that required courage to accept and commitment to nurture. She wanted exactly what she had. And as they drove through Seattle's rain-slicked streets toward the home they shared, surrounded by the life they'd built together, Aaliyah Robinson, now Aaliyah Park, knew with absolute certainty that every risk had been worth it, because the best love stories aren't the ones without obstacles. They're the ones where two people look at the obstacles and choose each other anyway, again and again and again,